Hello everyone, so I am Juliana, Myrine, Avan, and today I will be discussing about our topic on lesson 3, which is the mathematics of finance. So before we formally start our discussion, imagine this: you want to buy a phone, a car, or even a house, but you don't have enough money yet. So what do? This is where consumer loans and credit come in. And once you start earning, you might also want to grow your money through investments. So in today's lesson, we will not just define concepts, we will understand how they work in real life, their advantage and also their risks, and how they affect your financial future. So, our first lesson is about consumer loans and credit cards. So consumer loans are money that individuals borrow for personal use. Unlike business loans, these are meant for everyday needs like education, housing, transportation, or even emergencies. For example, if your family buys a house through monthly payments, that is a mortgage loan. And if you swipe a card to buy something without paying cash immediately, that is called a credit card loan. So, it is important to understand that when you take a loan, you're not just paying back the money that you borrowed, but you're also paying interest, which is the cost of borrowing money. And some of the key concepts that you should know is first, the mortgage. A mortgage allows you to own property while paying it gradually. But if payments are not completed, the lender can take back that property. And equity, on the other hand, is what you truly own. For example, if your house is worth 2 million pesos and you still owe 1 million pesos, then your equity is 1 million pesos. Next is a home equity line of credit or HELOC. It allows you to borrow using that equity. It's like turning your property value into a usable cash. Next is we have the two types of consumer loans. So these loans are classified into two types based on risk. First is we have our secured loans, which requires collateral. This means you promise an asset like a house or car as security. So why does this matter? Because it reduces the lender's risk. If you fail to pay, they can recover their money by selling your asset. Because of this lower risk, secured loans usually have lower interest rates, longer payment terms, and longer loan amounts. But the downside is serious. You can lose your property. Next is we have the unsecured loans. On the other hand, they don't require collateral. This sounds safer, but it actually shifts the risk to the lender. Because of that, they charge higher interest rates. Your approval is based on your credit worthiness, meaning your income, financial history, and your ability to pay. Next is we have credit card loans. So let us say you buy a 10,000 peso phone using a credit card. You didn't pay cash, but you now owe 10,000 pesos. So if you pay the full amount before the due date, you may not be charged of interest, and this is called the grace period. But if you only pay the minimum amount, interest will be added and your debt grows over time. And this is why credit cards are powerful but dangerous if misused. So some of the advantages of using a credit card is that they allow cashless transactions, which are convenient and secure. They also increase your purchasing power, meaning you can buy now and pay later. They also help build your credit score, which is important when applying for bigger loans in the future. Now, we have the disadvantages. However, the risks are serious because it becomes easy to overspend, especially when you don't feel the money leaving your hands. Interest rates can be very high and sometimes over 20% annually. Even paying, debt can accumulate quickly and become difficult to manage. There are also risks of fraud, especially if your card information is stolen. So a good rule is that only use your credit card for what you can afford to pay in full. Now that we've talked about borrowing money, let's talk about the opposite, growing your money. Our next topic is about stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So first, let us discuss what are stocks. Stocks represent ownership in a company. For example, if you buy shares in a company, you became a part owner. If the company performs well, the value of your shares increases. However, stocks are risky. Prices can go up or down depending on market conditions, company performance, and even global events. There are two types of stocks. First is the common stocks. Common stocks give you voting rights and variable dividends. The second is the preferred stocks. This give fixed dividends and priority but no voting rights. Next is bonds. So bonds are more stable. Instead of owning part of a company, you are lending the money to an organization. In return, they pay you a regular interest and return your money after a fixed period. So compared to stocks, bonds are actually safer, but they usually offer lower returns. And lastly is the mutual funds. Mutual funds are ideal for beginners. Instead of investing in just one asset, your money is spread across many investments. This is called diversification and it helps reduce risks. So there are four basic types of mutual funds. First is the stock or equity fund. These are investments or where you invest in stocks of corporations. And it has the highest possibility of growth but also the highest amount of risks. Next is the bonds fund. This invests in fixed income securities like treasury notes, T-bills, or corporate bonds. And growth is conservative and the possibility of loss is very low. Third is the balance fund. It is a mixture of both equity and bond funds. The return is normally somewhere between the return of a stock fund and a bond fund. And lastly is the money market fund. This is similar to a bond fund but invests in shorter term debt. So stock funds offer high growth but high risk. Bonds funds are safer with steady returns. Bond funds combine both, and money market funds are the safest, focusing on short-term investments. So to summarize it all up, loans and credit can help us achieve our goals, but they must be managed responsibly. At the same time, investments allow us to grow our money, but they require knowledge and careful decision making. Understanding both borrowing and investing is essential to becoming financially literate and responsible. So always remember, don't just earn money, learn how to manage and grow it. So thank you so much for watching this video and I hope that you've learned a lot. So see you in the next lesson.